And just like that, we're live again. It's Saturday afternoon here in Malaysia, Penang. Just gone 5 o'clock. I'm going to try and do these fairly regular, I think, because I quite enjoy the chit chat. Just hanging out for a little bit. Last week I think last week I had a sarsaparilla. This week I've actually got the coffee this time. I love these little cans of cold coffee. Pretty refreshing. Good afternoon, Black Circle. How you doing? Nice to see you, mate. Where are you again? You in Thailand? Vietnam? Penang? If I got that right? Let me know. Anyway, nice to see you. Hope you're well. Just going to open this can. There's loads of crows around me just now that are making a crow noises. A murder of crows. But I'm starting to think that the sound of Asia is actually an angle grinder. The house we're staying in, house across the street, just over there, got a new patio fitted last week. Took about 4 days, and it was just constantly like angle grinding. And they've finished, and now the house just over here has started the exact same. And the house behind me has got people about to start some work. And the house across here has just had a skip delivered. So everybody in this street is doing the old ankle grinding. Makes me think of the movie Misery. That is ankle grinding. Anyway, hello, cheers, welcome everyone. Bit of a coffee. Life with options, welcome mate, how you doing? So this episode, right, last week, I didn't turn on any adverts because I was like, I just want you to kind of enjoy the experience, hang out with me, and there's no adverts turned on this. But I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to London Tours, who sent me a little donation. So because I got that donation, I'm not going to turn any adverts on this, so we can just sit and chat. So thank you so much to London Premier Walking Tours, who sent me 20 quid. You'll get Yvonne and I a nice little coffee. I appreciate that, so thanks so much. The Butterfly Effect, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I've got a few talking points, right? I always scribble down a few notes of just things to chat through, just in case nobody shows up. I never know with these things, right? I don't know if you're going to turn the camera on and there's just going to be nobody here. So I always have a few talking points, just in case I don't want to sit in silence, like drinking a coffee by myself. But, the sound of barking dogs, that is true. Now, we've got 2 dogs here that we're looking after. Lucy does tend to bark a little bit and she riles up Teddy. Teddy and I are like that. And Lucy and Yvonne are like that. Classic stereotypes of boys and the girls sticking together and all of this, but barking dogs. But yeah, I think the sound of Asia is an angle grinder. That seems to be what it's like just now. So yes, you made it live. My daughter loves crows. We're actually feeding these ones here. They eat the dog food, those little kind of biscuit things. I think they're lamb flavoured. We throw a few out and the crows fly down and eat them. There's a few different birds that come down. There's actually, it's just flown over my head, there's a bird that flies around here. It's got a bit of a yellow eye mask. I don't know what they're called. It comes in the house. It actually hops in the front door and goes to the dog food. Here's Lucy came to say hello. Here's Lucy just wandered over to say hi because she's getting nosy about what's going on, seeing herself on the camera now. She came out to see what John's up to just now. There you go, sweetheart. Teddy will probably be here shortly because they can't miss out on anything. But we feed the birds, but one of them actually hops inside the front door and steals some of the dog food. Now, the dogs don't really eat it. The dog food, that is. They get made something else. We make fresh chicken and they get some rice and liver and all that other stuff. But the actual dog pellets, they don't eat. The birds eat it instead, so totally different experience. Danny Sullivan, hello, Perth, Australia. I've been to Perth. I was in Perth many years ago. I did a DJ gig in a club in Perth. I'll tell you what I remember about Perth. See the main street, there was a Scientology centre on the main street, and I remember seeing the sign for it, and the club was across the street from it. So can't even remember the name of the club, but I remember the Scientology centre years ago. But I've been to Perth. I wouldn't mind another visit to Perth. Queenstown, New Zealand. Hello. Yvonne and I would love to go to New Zealand. Somebody actually wrote to me recently and said they would offer us a house sit in New Zealand if we fancied that they were travelling and that we could borrow their house. You must tell me, can you hear the angle grinder? Can you actually hear that? I've put my microphone onto like dull down background noise, but tell me if you can hear it. So, what's been happening with everybody this week? What's been going on? What's been happening in your lives? You must tell me. I'll tell you something, right? I've had a lot of really nice emails this week from viewers. I send out a weekly newsletter on a Friday. I've had a lot of people replying to me about it. So John Eaton, Jules Rutherford, Vicky, of course, always messaging me, Sean, Paul, Donald, Justin, Neil, whole bunch of people that were messaging me. So thank you so much to everybody that sent me a really nice email this week. I really appreciated it. Got a lot of great chat from people about their lives, and just mainly because this week's newsletter was more about just life, right? Talking about employment and the last couple of weeks' podcast. Now, I send out this weekly Friday newsletter, right? See, when I set it up, I had to buy how many people could subscribe to it. I had to pay for a package, a year's package in advance. And see, when I bought it, I paid for 500 subscribers. And I thought, well, I'll not be likely to get anywhere close to that. And this week, end of this week, as the newsletter went out on Friday, I've hit 400. So I've only got 100 spaces, or I'm going to have to buy a higher package. I don't even know how that works. So 400 people on my newsletter, which is amazing. And then I get responses back from people like the names that I've given you, Neil and Paul and Jules, who reply back and send me some comments about it. Also, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate that. Raining in the UK. Why does that not surprise me? We had intense rain last night. The dogs get quite worried when there's like thunder and lightning, like all dogs. So I slept on the couch last night in the living room with Teddy because he was freaking out a little bit. And it was a case of just me and him lying on the couch, YouTube on with a bit of jazz music and just hanging out like boys at like 2 a.m. And then the rain stopped. I mean, it was like, it's the tropical rain, right? So it's incredibly heavy. The flashes of lightning, which freaks a dog out. So Teddy and I lay on the couch relaxing. But yeah, rain in the UK in the summer, summer rain, no way. Absolutely no way. Do you still DJ, Liam? I mean, I kind of feel like I'm retired, but I've still got a USB pen with me with all of the music. I don't think you're ever truly retired. I've got my record collection technically with me on USB pen, so I could do a gig. But last year when we left the UK, I sold all of the equipment and I sold my actual physical record collection. Apart from the records that I wrote, apart from those, I've kept those. Good job, guys. Well done. You didn't run out barking. Proud of the two of yous. Well done. That's an improvement. The dogs have spent the last 2 weeks just sprinting out the door, and we've managed to get them to a stage now where they do a wee bark and then look at us like, should we bark? Because we were calling them Paw Patrol. They're used to just sprinting to the gate and barking at anybody, but now it's calm. Life is starting to become a little bit more calm. Who else have I not said hello to? Christopher, how are you doing? Hello in Manchester. What's happening in Manchester today? What was 10 a.m, right? Just after 10 a.m. What's your plans in Manchester? See what else we got on here. Loving your journey, growing energy. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll say cheers with my tinned can of coffee. I think we might go a walk down into town tonight, take the dogs with us. And I'll maybe try and video a little bit around the beachfront on a Saturday night. It's probably a little bit quieter this week. Last week, there was like a 3 or 4 day Eid celebration that was on. So the beach was pretty busy. There was a lot of buses around with a lot of tourists, us included. We are obviously tourists, but more busier than normal. In the last couple of days when we've had morning walks, it's been much quieter, much calmer, and also much tidier on the beach. You know, people always go on about Brits, we rubbish and all that, but the poor beach down there gets trashed when there's certain things going on in Penang, which I didn't say, Georgetown, Penang, which is where we are just now. This is the end of week 2 of our 5-week house that we're on just now, looking after these 2 wee dogs, if you were curious. Marina, good morning. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Have you got a coffee? Are you joining me with a coffee? And Diedrich, how are you doing, mate? Nice to see you in the Netherlands. Do you know, I used to always take the piss a little bit out of the Dutch accent. I love the Dutch accent. I love many accents, but I used to work for a company called Belkin, and it had a European head office in Amsterdam. And I used to love going there and meeting the staff, a lot of old friends and colleagues. And Belkin used to make routers, you know, like for your internet connection. Only in Holland, they would call them a router. Hey, we got the new router. Never, ever fails to put a smile on my face thinking about that. Oh, Chris, building IKEA furniture. That's a pastime I don't miss. Each time Yvonne and I have moved house, we've always bought new IKEA furniture, and it is the absolute bane of your life putting that together. Does anybody ever just pay IKEA to put it together? You know, you can always hire somebody to do it. Does anybody ever do that? I feel like these services are underutilised. On Fire, New Zealand, NZ, I'm presuming that's... How are you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the hello. Let's see, life with options. I'm just getting back here a little bit. I tallied up my passive income streams for May for a new video. It's a pretty good month. I'll check that out. Thanks for letting me know. I'll have a little nosy. I'm always keen to see what other people are getting up to. I haven't done my May figures video yet. I kind of felt like people weren't really that interested in the kind of numbers stuff and all that, to be honest. I read a few comments from people saying, oh, the number, you just always talk about the numbers. So I kind of drifted away from that a little bit and just kind of gave it a bit of space. So I don't know. Does anybody really care how much things cost for a month? And half the time, because it's just me thinking about this stuff, you just get inside your own head and you're like, does any of this really matter? I never really know. Let me skip back a little bit as well. Rye Hope, hi John. Nadine from Canberra. Hello, Canberra. Never been to Canberra. Jealous, you in the warm. It's very warm. It is definitely very warm here. So yeah, the newsletter went out, some great messages from people, really thoughtful and very detailed messages from people about lives and business and everything else. And a real range of people. You know, I always talk about the demographics on this channel, right? Being like mainly men in their kind of 40s and all that. And then I hear from people who are like, I'm in my mid 30s, or I'm a 60-odd-year-old woman, I'm watching your content. The demographics are essentially, you know, the big picture of it. But when you dive a deeper level below all of that, it's a very eclectic mix. I don't drift into I would say the kind of 18-year-old bracket. I'm not attracting that audience, which is probably a bit right. But most people tend to be in the kind of late 30s, probably already early, thinking about retirement and money and everything else, and stumbling across this kind of content. I built a website last week and I talked about it on a video. I did that, and 200 people went and did the quiz. The question thing that I set up, which was, again, quite exciting for me, because when you spend a day, it was raining, right? spent a day building it. I used AI, I used Claude AI to pull it together, fed in the data, interviews, questions, everything else. And then 200 people went and filled it all in. And that was quite fascinating, from all over the world, France and Italy, and try to think of the countries that came through on it. In fact, might be able to have a look. Let me see. Canada was on there. The US was on there. Sweden, Australia, Malaysia was on there. Where else? Had a visitor from Egypt and a lot from the UK, which I kind of expect. But yeah, that was kind of cool to see people from all over logging on and having a little look at the questionnaire that I pulled together. Marina, how are you getting on? How's your daughter with her plans working towards the wedding, right? I'm not sure when that's happening, but I remember you mentioning it. What's this? Hi, John. Have you ever considered adopting now you're in Asia? I mean, adopting a little dog at this point, yeah, sure. But beyond all of that, I think Yvonne has enough on her hands trying to look after me because I'm probably the big kid in all of this. But thanks, I appreciate that comment. Deidre, that's good to hear. You know, so I mean, that's the thing about like Dutch and Scottish, and you know, I wouldn't say the Germans in this. The Dutch and Scottish and British, we have a good sense of humour. We have a good ability to be able to take the piss out of ourselves and laugh about it. Not so sure. Are the French like that? Not so sure. The Germans are very serious. I learned that working in that last job. Sarcasm doesn't roll over with the Germans. Any ideas on SpaceX IPO? Do you know, I'm giving that a complete wide berth. I'm not sure. I kind of get the feeling that it might, I don't know. Look, I'm not a financial advisor. My initial personal impressions of it is, could be a bubble. I don't know. It'll probably launch and it'll rocket, literally. And I'll be sitting there looking at it like, why didn't I buy it? But I think I'll let it launch and just watch for a little while and see what goes on. I don't know, but tell me this. What about the close of the market yesterday? Oh, trillions wiped out. Crypto, gold, stocks, S&P 500. I don't think there was a sector that wasn't affected yesterday in the close. That was painful to watch. That's one of those ones you have to just sit and ride it out. You like the numbers videos. All right, good to know. Good to know. I love a conversation and a topic that starts with not meaning to be disrespectful. I'm reading that in my head there. Sorry, I should probably read it out. However, you seem to be living a minimum budget and off of your YouTube earnings. Did you invest it for later? Yeah, I talked about this. I've talked about this in many videos. I have investments. I trade options now, stock options. There's a few different answers to that question, really, right? Paid very well. Yes, my last job at the last point when I left was on 147 grand a year, with a bonus structure that would have took me to around 200k. And on a UK tax system, that would mean that I would walk out with roughly half of that money. So a 200 grand salary, walk away with about 100 after taxes in the UK. Was one of the many reasons why I decided not to do it any longer, because I felt that the stress, the workload, the health implications of doing the job weren't really worth the reward at the end of it all, to hand half of it over to a UK government who's currently pissing it up the wall for any old ideology and scheme that they seem fit whilst the country crumbles. So that was one reason. Secondly, the minimal budget thing. When my dad passed away and I was dealing with his house and his possessions, and then also going through my own grief process and all of that, I decided that things weren't really that worth it anymore. So cleared his house out, cleared my own house out, took all that money and decided to invest as much of that as possible to bring in some kind of regular income. And I do now live a minimal life. Like, I've gone from, you know, townhouse in Northampton, 2 cars, all of the trappings that come with life, to essentially 1 suitcase, enough clothes for a week, and money in the bank to kind of let us live and not have a job. I earn some money from YouTube, I earn from Patreon, and that's about it. In terms of more detail on all of this, I share my kind of investments and my earnings and all of that stuff on Patreon. I do a regular video that shows exactly how much I have invested, how much that's earning. From a very high level, I share some of that here on YouTube as well. So I hope that gives you a bit of an insight into that. It hasn't just been like one thing. It's been a multitude of things that have resulted in a big mental shift. The numbers work well for me. Good to know, Christopher. Thanks, mate. Marina, the wedding's in 3 weeks. Oh, it's at that phase where everybody starts getting like, oh, is everything booked? Everything on track? Ah, that'll be exciting. Keep me posted. I'd love to know how it goes. Let's see. I was reading Yvonne's blog today. Hope you're supporting her through her issues. Absolutely not. I just leave Yvonne to just do whatever she wants to do. And as a husband of 30 odd years, of course, I definitely don't support her. That's called Scottish sarcasm. Hello, Victoria. How you doing? I was just talking about you there. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming along. I like the numbers too. I think it's good to focus on where the money goes out. I agree. It's just, you know, again, when you're kind of doing all this stuff yourself, right, don't necessarily always have a sounding board. And, you know, the comment section, again, this week been great. Lots of really super supportive messages. But from time to time, you can read that people are pissed off with hearing about your numbers. So you start to think, well, maybe I'll ease back a little bit on all of that. But it's good to know that that there are people interested. So I'll see if I can make that this week. I think you make a good point about the tax, whether it's worth the higher earnings. I'm not interested in over 50k. It's 40% tax. This is, you know, this is the real implications, right, of this kind of tax structure in the UK. Oh, I mean, without getting into the deep politics of all of this, right? But if you've been following like the Mandelson leaks in the UK, the text messages, if you read the conversation between Pat McFadden, the Scottish guy who's the pensions minister, and Peter Mandelson, where Pat McFadden said in a message to Peter Mandelson, most of the questions he keeps getting asked are around how we can tax people more to pay more benefits. You know, well, just keep taxing people into oblivion. That was one of many compounding reasons why I just kind of had enough. And I talked to people, I've worked with people who have actually asked not to get a promotion or a wage rise, to not put them into a higher level of tax. How does that benefit the country where people actively don't want to get a promotion because it might take them out of childcare benefits? Or, you know, I worked with a mate who when he was joining the company that I was working at, I was recruiting him, was negotiating with me as to capping his salary so that he could still gain childcare vouchers. Because if he came in the salary we were actually going to offer him, it would have put him over that threshold. It's madness. But for me, and I've made videos on the channel talking about that 60% tax bracket, 62% tax bracket in the UK, where when you're over 100,000 to 120,000, you lose some of that tax-free benefit. The 12,000 that you get starts to disappear as you go over that threshold. So you end up in a kind of weird 60% tax. And then with national insurance, that takes you to 62% tax. So you're really working like 3.5 to 4 days out of the week for the government before you're working for yourself. Wild. Now, an update video that I'm waiting to make will be about my tax situation. My details are in with the tax accountant in the UK. I'm going through a split assessment. I've absolutely loved the people who have messaged me like, you won't get a split assessment, you won't get this, you won't get that. Going through it right now. hoping to be able to share that with you soon. I'm doing the situational residence test. I've followed everything to the nth degree. And once this is wrapped up, I will expect that I'm a non-tax resident of the UK, which was one of the goals. And I'm not a tax resident here because I don't live here. And I'm not a tax resident anywhere. And I'm now in this grey area. Now, how long can I be in that grey area? Don't really know. How long do I plan on being in it for? No idea. Again, I'm 48. I'm be 50. When I turn 50, I'm looking at a retirement visa, or looking at a kind of digital nomad style visa. Once we decide where we want to stay longer term, potentially Thailand, who knows? But till then, I'm floating around in this grey area, not paying tax in the UK, not paying tax here because I'm not a tax resident and I'm not a resident. It's a kind of interesting world. And then I'm earning from YouTube, and I'm earning from stocks and shares, and not paying capital gains on all of that. It's a murky, murky world. Been interested in SpaceX IPO, not obsessed. Yeah, the Lego scandal. Do you know, I wanted to make a video about the Lego scandal and I'm just not quite sure. Like, I was like, is my audience? I was considering doing my weekly podcast about the Lego scandal. Fantastic story about bricks and minifigs, the Utah police, the guy Brian, whose dad owned the Lego collection. That is, what an incredible, incredible story that's going on with that, and the coverage behind it. Bricks and minifigs, like how to implode a business with your incredible shady practices. And now the guy that was running the store is gone, but the CEO, Captain, the bad guy with the tash, wild. Marina yet panic setting in about the wedding. Everybody just stay calm. Hello, Jenny. How you doing, pal? Nice to see you. Hope you're well. Right, what else we got going on? Victoria, I'm waiting on a surgeon on the 8th of July. What are you talking? Oh, I was just mentioning that getting some lovely emails this week, and I mentioned your name as emailing me. Let's have a little look here. Lauren, if you can afford only salary sacrifice, hence the 40% tax bracket, get a SIP. Great advice. Solid advice. Whilst I'm talking about this, right, this week, I feel like people are like, John, try and rest. And then I'm like, I built a website. I also built an entire financial tracking system, like a dashboard. It's called a cockpit. Don't know why it came up with that name, but a dashboard which has my income, which has my stock holdings, has my pension, it's got my cash availability, and it tells me all of the stocks that I've got, live pricing, my crypto, and then it tells me how long the runway is. And I built it all using AI this week. And on the 23rd of June, so today's the 6th, on the 23rd of June, I'll hold my next Zoom call with the room tier members of Patreon. So to say that again, I have a Patreon account that has 3 tiers. You can join for free, but you really see all of the information within the 3 tiers. Starts from £5, goes up to £12. The £12 level have a monthly Zoom call with me, and we chat about money and travel and finance. And the members come on the Zoom call with me. So rather than me just talking to you like I'm doing now, they come on the Zoom call. And on the 23rd of June, I'm going to go through how I built that whole system. I'm going to go through the prompts. I'm going to go through what information I've fed in and share that for the other members to maybe go and build one themselves. So if you're interested in all of that, Patreon is where I'll do that. And you've got time to join if you want to come onto that call. But if you just want to see all the other content, there's like 150 different posts about investments and ISAs and pensions and just a kind of experience that I'm sharing. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. I'm just sharing my own experience of leaving the 9 to 5, getting out of the UK and going and living this. So that's in there. Right, let me go back. So great advice, Lauren. Thank you so much. Let's see what else we got going on. Remember when personal allowance went up every year? Yeah. Look at it now, right? They're just taking bits away, taking it away. The impact on ISA now, right? So ISA was 20,000 cash or stocks and shares, or a blend of the two. Now it's going down to 12,000 in the cash side, 20,000 if you're investing in the stocks and shares. However, this new policy will be that if you have cash sitting in the stocks and shares side, they'll charge you 22% tax on any interest that you earn. Like, is there anything left that they're not just bleeding the life out of you? And again, it comes back to Pat McFadden texting Peter Mandelson. Oh, Jesus Christ, there's like a fly in my ear there. What else can we tax them on in order to pay benefits? Wild. Not meaning to be disrespectful, John. But how are Scotland going to get on in the World Cup? I actually, do you know, on my notes today, my little notes I had scribbled down, World Cup starts in a week. I'm very excited about the World Cup starting in a week because it's going to give me something to do for the next couple of weeks that we're on this house sit, because I'll get right into watching a few of the games. But I had a look to see what times the games were on, and the Scotland opening game is 2 o'clock in the morning here. 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm too old for that shit now. Like, that's like clubbing times. Like, I'm 48, right? I'm a 48, 47. God, isn't that weird when you just forget your own age? I'm 48, 47 last year. I still think in my brain that I can still go clubbing and like, oh, might go if somebody good's on. But I need the club to run from like 2 in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night, and then I would be okay with that. Day clubbing is the future. So how are Scotland going to get on? Probably we'll lose the first game. We'll win the second game, and we'll need the third game just to maybe make the qualification, and we'll draw and get knocked out, because that's the Scottish way. It's always just the nearly rans. I haven't heard about Lego. Right. Can I give you a very quick synopsis, right? A very quick rundown. A son, this guy Brian, his dad's got a Lego collection from the 80s, and his dad's unwell, and the son decides he's going to sell the Lego collection in order to raise money to look after his dad. Takes it to a company called Bricks and Minifigs, which is like a second-hand Lego sales company, massive organization based in Utah. He takes it into the local branch, which are franchises, and he does a consignment deal with the branch. The Lego kit is valued at $200,000. So the store agrees that they'll sell each item and then pay Brian the money. Consignment deal, right? So they take it on, there's no cost exchange, they sell it, they give him some money, and they'll earn a fee from it. As they do this, they sign all the paperwork. The manager of the store decides they're going to move countries, going to leave the United States and move to another country. Head office finds out about this, terminates their contract, hands their contract over to somebody else, and now they have completely disassociated from knowing anything about this guy, Brian, who's selling the Lego kit. They say, no, you never did this. We don't know anything about it. They've effectively stole the $200,000 worth of Lego kit that this old man owned. The son is going absolutely crazy. The dad doesn't even know anything about this. The son's done it to try and protect his dad. Hasn't told his dad the 200 grand of Lego kit's gone missing. Bricks and Minifigs store then starts saying, nope. So the son gets so desperate, he reaches out to this guy called Reckless Ben, who's got a YouTube channel. And this guy kind of fights battles on behalf of like the small man in disputes. He takes on the case and starts going into the store trying to campaign to get the Lego kit back. The store basically blacklists him from visiting and starts calling the police and saying he's came in with weapons and threatened to off everybody in the store, and that they don't know anything about the 200 grand Lego. And the police start arresting this young kid. He gets arrested, and at one point he ends up in court and he has to flee to Mexico because there's a warrant out for his arrest all over Lego. Now, this gets picked up by some really big YouTubers who cover the story that gets millions of views. And now all of a sudden, Bricks and Minifigs is everywhere on like X. It's on every YouTube channel talking about this story. The guy who runs the YouTube channel, Reckless Ben, he starts a GoFundMe campaign. And I think he's now raised $350,000 to give to the guy Brian to just make him whole. This has been going on for like a year. He's then said, I'll technically own the Legos so that he can carry on fighting the battle with Bricks and Minifigs. It's turned into that the police are in on this kind of scam, this scheme that's going on, because this Bricks and Minifigs is massive in Utah, which are Mormon. And the guy who runs Bricks and Minifigs kind of went to university. Or the store manager, I think went to university or college with most of the police, because the police are also Mormon. So there's a bit of a kind of religious undercurrent in all of this. And it turns out that the guy Reckless Ben managed to get loads of video footage and body cam footage where the police are conspiring to arrest him. And at one stage, they perform a fully armed raid on his house. So they raid a YouTuber's house over Legos, machine guns, weapons all pointed out, and they dislocate his arm on the way out the house just to really kind of tell him who's boss in all of this. And the video footage is insane. So that's kind of where it's at. And now, in the last few days, Bricks and Minifigs has put a statement out saying that they're no longer working with the store. The store management team are gone. But the CEO is under a lot of pressure. He stepped down because he's like a super villain. He's got one of those little kind of thing with moustaches. He genuinely looks like a super villain. And he's on all sorts of recorded tapes threatening this YouTuber, basically telling him, like, take us to court. Go ahead, take us to court and see what happens. We'll destroy you with our financial backing against you. You'll never get this money back. They stole an old man's Lego and they were actively selling it on their website, promoting it, and then reneging on the deal in the first place. And they tried every dirty tactic under the sun to go back on this deal. It is incredible, right? Anybody that knows this story, tell me, have I summarized that well enough? Have I got that right? Anyway, go on to like YouTube, look for either Reckless Ben, his documentation. I'll tell you what I love, right? He has a Patreon channel and he was releasing the videos on Patreon first. So he put part 1 out, part 2 and part 3 was on Patreon. Bricks and Minifigs went to Patreon and said, we want this person removed. And the CEO of Patreon came out and did an interview and basically went, suck it. We're not taking this guy's page down. You guys are the bad guys here, Bricks and Minifigs. This is when you love the internet, right? Never mind Peter Mandelson and all that other, like all the other. I know it's been a heavy week. It's been a very heavy week in the press. Lots of crazy stories. But if you just want to go something that started out bad and is starting to have a real good feel factor attached to it, type in Reckless Ben or Bricks and Minifigs. Great story. I'm glad I was able to talk about that. I've been like relentlessly following it all week. And that is the danger of consignment. Yes, and this is the thing, right? Bricks and Minifigs head office says, we don't allow consignment. And then Reckless Ben gets the contract and it's written into the contract, we allow consignment. They're all just lying. They're all lying. The police chief of Utah put a statement out basically kind of being caught out is telling a few fibs in his statement about reckless Ben and the whole case and everything else. The police in Utah do not look good in all of this. And they're supposed to have redacted audio on video footage and they forgot to do it. And it just looks so bad. It looks so bad. Right, anyway, that's that's a good little chat about all of that. How would be able to, I mean, Michael, I would have no idea how to answer that. I don't know how you would acquire insulin. It's not something I've ever looked into. I mean, I've been through medical processes here in Malaysia. I've been to the hospital. I've been to doctors' clinics. I've been to pharmacies and managed to kind of deal with all of that, deal with things for myself, prescriptions from the hospital. But insulin is not something I could confidently say to you about. I don't want to be one of these guys that just tells you an answer that's without actually knowing. And yeah, that does sound like a film script. That will be a Netflix. You know, all these guys, like, have you ever heard of CoffeeZilla? Like, he's just done a thing on it. Penguin Zero, Charlie, who's got one of the biggest followings on YouTube, he posted a video on it, and within the first like 5 hours, it had like 2 million views. And people are just like, these such scumbags. The guy Reckless Ben, the 3-part story is so good, so good. At one point, he opened a store called Bricks and Minifigs. We steal from the elderly, and he started a website saying we steal from the elderly. I mean, he just went after every detail that he possibly could. Good guy, Ben, trying to just fight this case for this poor man's dad who's like ill, trying to raise money for that out of Lego. Wild. So Lego's been trending heavily on X in the last week. I mean, a lot of things have been trending on X in the last week, right? When the thing's not, that's the kind of world we live in at this moment. The big stories just keep coming and keep coming me. My wife is sick of me updating her on the Lego scandal. Yvonne and I have been glued to it all week. We've just been kind of waking up in the morning and been like, right, let's see who's putting videos out about this topic. Been really fascinating. Let's have a look. Have I got news for you? Do you know, see, the one thing I'll say about the Mandelson thing, isn't it lucky that the Henry story has cast a very big shadow over the Mandelson situation? Isn't that lucky for the government that those 2 big stories played out at the same time and one took precedent over the other? Yeah, sad indictment of where we're at these days. Even a summary on Wikipedia, Reckless Ben controversy. There you go. Which AI do you subscribe to? I use ChatGPT and I use Claude and I use Perplexity. I don't really use Grok. I had a subscription for it, but I wasn't really finding it that useful. I mainly use Claude for most of the big things that I've built. And I use ChatGPT more for brainstorming and more on the chat side of it. I find ChatGPT better for, yeah, definitely like brainstorming. I do a lot of it as the audio. I just sit and talk, have conversations. I use it for like YouTube videos and concept ideas and brainstorming. And then when I want to build something, I use Claude for it. Now, while we're on this topic, right, let me tell you what's happening with the insurance company. The legal team for the insurance claim filed their documentation late last night. However, unlike me, little guy in the fight here, I had to go on to the arbitration company's website and upload all my documentation, and I did all of that. The insurance company couldn't do that. They couldn't work out how to upload their documents to the website. So they sent an email last night saying, here's our defense against John's claim, but we've had to put it inside a Google folder because we don't know how to upload it to the website. These fucking guys, man, honestly. Spelling mistakes, name changes, late payments, can't upload it to our website. But they filed last night. So now we're waiting to see if the arbitration company writes back and says, okay, we'll accept, or no, you have to upload it to this portal or whatever. Waiting to see if that happens. And the reason I brought that up is because I'm using AI to actually fight that case. And when I'm done, I'm going to share the prompts that I used in order to fight this battle, and how I've structured all of that documentation. So they submitted their argumentation last night and I was able to review that. And then I will be able to counter that defence that they have shared. And I now just need to wait till they appoint an arbitrator to review the case. I don't know how long all of that's going to take. Probably months, although weeks would be great, but probably months. But I'll tell you this. See, when they submitted their case, a lawyer who did it, it's full of spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes. There's like full stops missing. There's capitalization or lowercase when it should be capitalized. And I'm like, they hired a lawyer for that. They actually hired a lawyer. The reason I know that is because in the last couple of days, they submitted an email to the arbitration company saying, we want to add this person's name in. And I was like, oh, they've never been mentioned before. And I went and did a search on the company's website where all employees are listed and that person's name's not there. And then when the documentation came through last night, they've hired counsel to help support them to battle me and paying me out for the insurance money. And in the documentation, in their defence, they have once again stated that they agree. I'm just going to say this slowly for everybody to totally understand, right? That they agree that it was medically necessary for me to have the treatment. Medically necessary to have the treatment for everything that I went through. And the decline is because the doctor booked me in for a number of days later to allow the body to drain the kidney that was infected. They then booked me in, and their argument is that that was elective and not emergency, even though I was in an emergency situation. So they said, when you were taken into hospital, that was an emergency. When you then had the surgery, you elected to have that surgery. And then when you got sepsis, that was an emergency. So 1 and 3 emergencies, part 2, non-emergency, claim declined. That's the argumentation on all of this. Anyway, I got to view all of that last night. So there you go. It's a little update. And I'm using AI to fight all of that. Thank God that stuff exists. Couldn't do this without it. Couldn't do this without it. Thank you so much. Drop a like, guys. I appreciate that. Black Circle IPO. I totally agree. I totally agree. Just let it bubble out, right? Because IPOs, right? See, by the time the public gets the access to the IPO, all of the best pricing, all of the deal has been done with the big organizations, the BlackRocks and the, all the Citadels of the world. They've got all the good pricing. You get the shit bit of all of this. And then when it goes public, what's likely to happen? My prediction, well, I'm not touching it. Whew. But let's see. Maybe it just goes the opposite way and I've got this totally wrong. But I'm in the belief, let it sit for a number of months and then let's see what really happens with it all. Then we'll know. Then we'll know. But it's gone quiet here. I think the guys have finished work. I was saying to Yvonne, I wonder if they're like 5 o'clock finish where they're like, right, we're out of here. But because we're in Malaysia and, the work ethic tends to be a bit different, I thought they'll probably be out here angle grinding to like 10 o'clock tonight. But they're gone. Silence has returned to the street. Right, what else have we got? Rachel's responded on the insulin overseas. It very much depends on which country and which type of insulin. Some countries allow you to purchase over the counter. Yeah, prescription, Malaysia. Yeah, would that, Rachel, would that be Thailand? Because Thailand, it seems like you can just walk in and buy pretty much anything over the counter there. Including the cabbage, if you know what I mean. Part 2, KL and Penang. endocrinologists you could consult with. I think in a few weeks' time, Yvonne and I are going to go and do an actual full medical in one of the hospitals, and I'm going to turn that into a bit of a video, just talking about like what that process is like. We both wanted to get health checks done, so I think we're going to go and do that. So I'll keep you posted on what that plays out like. MBA, how you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Paul, morning. Thanks for sharing your journey. Plenty of people think about doing the same. All the best with your travels. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Paul. Welcome. Thanks for coming on the channel. Exactly. Quantum, I'm with you on this. Insiders get the meat, the plebs get the bone. An incredibly crude way of putting it, but nails it perfectly. A better summary I couldn't come up with, even in my own Scottish dialect. Morning from Malta. Hello, Michael. How are you doing? Are you returning to KL after Penang? Not sure. Here's why I say not sure. We're on this house sit for 5 weeks. Then we have a 10-day break. And then we're on the house sit again for another 2 weeks. So we're not sure if we'll leave Penang and go back to KL, because we've got a buddy, a mate, who's flying in from Australia to come and see us and might come here. We haven't really aligned that part of the catch up yet, but it's expensive to stay here just now. So we might go back to KL. And if we went back to KL, then we'll do that health checkup. But if not, and we stay here in Penang, then we'll be here for the next 3 weeks, plus 10 days, plus 2 weeks. Terrible at doing the maths on that. And then after that, we're going to go to Spain. And then after that, we're not sure. Still need to figure all that bit out. Try doctor on call. See, if I attempt to say that name, I would just brutalise it. So I'm just going to leave that on screen and say that part of Malaysia. My wife is quite keen. No, haven't thought about it, to be honest. Not at this point. I'm sure we probably will drift around a few more locations. We're starting to kind of think about next year now. Because this year's starting to kind of, I know it's June, right? But this year's starting to run out. Spain will be August and maybe some of September, depending on what happens with PALS. And then maybe Dubai. And then maybe Thailand is kind of in our thought process just now. But beyond all of that, we haven't really got much further yet. But we're starting to think in next year. And we'd like to go to Australia and New Zealand maybe. But again, that's all about the costs, right? If we go and stay with pals, then that might be an option. But if we're just going to go and rent, that's probably too expensive for our budgets. Have I missed any I'm scrolling back to see if I've missed any comments. Let's see. Day raves in London. Yeah, I mean, Yvonne and I went to the Printworks in London for a kind of hard techno night maybe a couple of years ago, and it was a day event. Listen to me, I'm in my 40s, hard techno night at the Printworks. Like, sorry mate, who are you? Scotland will win the tournament. Listen, with that kind of optimism, I would say get a fiver on at Ladbrokes on that. As for the DJing thing, find some decks. I can do it from my computer. I know that's like, I mean, to a purist, that's absolutely sacrilegious, right? I'll just DJ it from my computer. But I can do it from my computer. I was actually thinking at one stage, I was like, I should start my Twitch stream back up again and play some music on it. And then I was also like, have a word with yourself, mate. You're 48 years old. Retire. Get up. Although Carol Cox, Pete Tong and all that, right? Were they in the late 50s, early 60s? It's never too late for them. So we shall see. Diedrich, also appreciate you sharing the numbers. Okay, I'll make that numbers video this week, which would be May. I'll get onto that. And again, whilst we're in this, I just want to say there's no adverts in this because I wanted to say a special thanks to London Tours who sent me a nice donation a couple of days ago. So I've not put any adverts on this. because they sent me 20 quid and this adverts would just ruin your experience. So thank you to them again. Get the name right. London Premier Walking Tours. Their handle on YouTube is London Tours and Events. What else did I scribble down? So I've told you about the insurance. The mailing list is at 400. I've only got 100 places left. So if you've not joined the mailing list and you would like to, the link is always down below in the description of all of this. I built the website, built the financial dashboard, which I'm going to talk about on Patreon on the 23rd. Thanks to everybody that watched the video discussions this week as well, right? Because some of these topics, they tend to drift around a little bit. And it's been quite reflective in the last week or two, just talking about alcohol and mental capacity and the If I Was You video that I posted yesterday. And again, I appreciate the people who actually sent me the comments in the first place, right? I know there's not maliciousness in these comments from Luke and Verily and just asking questions or making comments. I was using those as examples. I could have picked out a dozen more and talked about it if I was you, just from the perspective of the one I did laugh about was Dave, who was like, "Oh, you took the train, you've ruined your trip through Malaysia, you're nothing but a tourist." And I was laughing because the other part I always hear is, "You are a tourist." I am a tourist. I'm on a tourist visa here. I'm not living here permanently. I leave before 90 days. So you can't win, right? People are like, "You're a tourist, you're on a tourist visa." And then you didn't drive, you took the train, you're nothing but a tourist. Thanks, Dave. I'll tell you, I've drunk that can of coffee, right? But I'd absolutely love a cider. I might need to stop off at the shop tonight and get a cider. That's me saying, "Oh, I won't drink." And then I'm like, "Oh, could I have a cider?" If there was one thing I'm doing cider. See, when I then think about having the cider, I just go, "Oh, what's the point? It's so sugary." And I get a bit of a bloated belly when I drink it. But see a Jack Daniels. I saw Noel, who's the ex-retired policeman, sometimes floats around here. He'll probably watch this later, right? So Noel, I saw your post. He's giving up drink. He's doing a lot of walking. He's losing a bit of weight. And he posted a video with a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I was like, "Oh, see a Jack." I used to always drink Jack Daniels with a Pepsi or a Coca-Cola, and then I would just occasionally drink it straight with a bit of ice in it and sip it. But when we met Paul and Cheryl in Bali, I had Jack Daniels one night sitting with them, because you're at a table in a nice bar in the evening, and I had a Jack Daniels, and I sipped it over an hour. Oh, there's something so nice about that. That's one thing that I would say when you've kind of moved away from drinking. There is the occasional thing that you'll go, it's like for some people, it's like a glass of wine, a nice glass of wine with a dinner. Jack Daniels, oh, that would be nice. Right, you're going to have to go. No problem. All the best, Victoria. See you later, pal. AI is an amazing tool. Black Circle, totally agree. Look, there's always it's going to take over the world. People are going to lose jobs. But see, in terms of a tool to be able to assist, I mean, I've built that website this week with the 20 questions, all the analysis. I did all of that on Claude. I built my entire legal case against the insurance company on AI, both ChatGPT, GPT, and Claude. I fought the British Gas case, Scottish Power case using AI. And then I've built this financial dashboard this week with tracking all of my numbers. Claude and ChatGPT can now connect directly to Interactive Broker, and it can pull in live data. So I can now go onto Interactive Broker, connect it to Claude, and then I can sit on Claude and say, run an analysis on all of the options trades that I've got open right now and give me feedback. And I've been building that over the last week that I've been doing that. And I used that to help me build the financial dashboard. I love all of that kind of stuff. Absolutely. And I know that it will freak some people out. But it's been super useful. I use ChatGPT to get a proper refund against that. Exactly. See, those are the parts where it really helps. When the insurance thing is over, I'll share, I'd said this earlier, but I'll share the prompts that I used. I've been using it just now to analyze other insurance companies, so that I don't end up going frying pan fire when I leave the company I'm with just now and move to another organization. I don't end up getting bitten again. So I'm using AI to run analysis on the companies that I'm looking at. So that's been that's where I get all the kind of use from it all. It's a tool, you know. Don't use it to do all the work for you, but use it as a tool to help you with the work in the first place. Hello, Bumblebee. How are we doing? Late to the party. Never late to the party, although I did finish my drink. 64 people here. Thank you so much, everybody. That's a great little audience here. I'll say this, right? I've started posting to Instagram at the beginning of this year, and I follow a guy on there. Trying to look to make sure I've got his name written down. Whose name is his YouTube handle. God, my brain. His Instagram handle is My Discipline Drive, and he's a lad that posts every day doing 100 press-ups. He was quite a big, beefy lad. He's been doing 100 press-ups every day. He's been doing it for yonks now, and he's absolutely jacked now. And me and him message from time to time. He watches this channel and I watch his page. And it was giving me a bit of inspiration because we're at this house. There's no gym, there's no swimming pool. So there's a back garden. And I was in the back garden 3 times this week. And all that's in the back garden is there's 2 cement bricks. And I was in the garden training with the 2 cement bricks, using them to do press-ups, using them to do over-shoulder presses, using it to do lateral and I don't know what you call that one, Jesus pose raises and that one and all of that kind of stuff. And then jogging up and down just to get a sweat on for 20 minutes in the garden in this Malaysian heat. And I was getting a bit of inspiration from My Discipline Drive. So if you're like into a bit of fitness, go and have a look at his page. He's got like 30,000 followers. He doesn't need me to give him a shout out. It's absolutely smashing it. But just to see somebody who has posted every single day in rain, wind, snow, doing 100 press-ups. 100 press-ups. Impressive. That's the kind of commitment that I love. Hello, Michael. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, mate. You too. All the best. Lateral raise is what you meant. Thank you. I'm terrible with names, all these things. Again, I have a Chat GPT set up that I log what I eat and what I do. And from my smartwatch, I put in all the data, the number of steps, and I give it the readings every day so that it tracks like my sleep score and my health fitness and my blood pressure and all that stuff. And then it gives me little training routines and I put all that in and what I'm eating. And then it gives me advice so that I'm staying like on track. So I've got a little kind of fitness coach that I've built up on Chat GPT, and again, prompts that I've built. I don't know, is anybody interested in that stuff, like prompts and how to kind of structure them? But the AI has been super helpful. I put pictures in of like, and it measures my body fat, gives me a rough estimation. It's able to kind of work out what I weigh, and it's been pretty accurate because I don't always have access to scales when we're traveling. God, these 2 dogs, they're so hyper. I don't always have access to scales. So I'll actually take a picture and it knows my height, and then it will give me an estimation of body fat percentages and weight. It's amazing. Being able to actually pretty much nail it each time. How much are you paid for Claude? And can you link it to Trading 212 and other investing accounts to make a dashboard? No, it doesn't connect to Trading 212. It doesn't connect to eToro. It's just something that Interactive Brokers built in so far. I went on to Interactive Broker in the last week and it had an AI section, and it will connect to ChatGPT or Claude and Grok. It says coming soon. And it's an actual connector. So when you go into ChatGPT or Claude, the connectors built in there, and then it does like live. So it can't write a cash secure put or something for you, but it can see the live pricing and it can give you an estimation. So I've been kind of using it for that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you how I have used it with other platforms. I just take screenshots. I'll go into Trading 212 and take a screenshot, and then I put that into my Claude and build the dashboard from that. Hello, John. How you doing, mate? Nice to see you. You're here now. Right, that's it. The stream is over. John Bennison is here. That's why prisoners are jacked. Exactly, yeah. No training routine, right? Just doing press-ups all day. Have a look at that lad's profile. He's a phenomenal page. Let me see if I can quickly find it. My discipline. His name's Ben, right? So that's his page there. He makes videos of what he looked like on day one, right? Day one. That was him on the first day. He does it all outside, right? So he's a big lad. And then he does his 100 press-ups. He does little recaps. So when he started this, you know, he was doing them in little interval sessions. And that's what he looks like now. Look at that. Absolutely jacked. 100 press-ups for God knows how long. And like I say, I mean, he's got a massive... Let me have a little look at his page. 53,500 subscribers watching a lad doing press-ups every single day. See, when you talk about commitment to seeing something through, that is it right there. Side lateral raises, right? So see, when I was saying about the Jesus pose, right? I mean, listen to me. I just write down descriptions, and then when I put it into ChatGPT, it gives me a right, this is the exercise you did, and I never pay attention. So I'll say, oh, I did 100 body weight squats, I did 100 press-ups, I did, you know, did these exercises, this exercise. Obviously, when I'm in the gym, I'm giving it the actual, I did a, I don't know, like an 80 kilogram deadlift or a 50 kilogram bench press or something like that, right? I'll put all of that in. But when I'm just here, I'm asking it like, I've got 2 bricks and what kind of exercises can I do, and getting all of that detail out of it. Stephen, hello John, I've been watching you since the beginning. I've arrived in Chiang Mai 18 months ago. Since then, done some traveling, had an operation for a hernia. Did you have the operation from the hernia in Chiang Mai? What was that like? What did it cost? Did you do it under insurance? Was it like an emergency, or did you pay for it? And if you paid for it, how much was it? It's a lot of questions, right? Ian Thompson, hello mate, how are you doing? What's going on? You should have been here earlier when I was talking about Scotland game for next week. We're talking about the World Cup starting. You getting excited? You ready for it? I was saying that it's 2 o'clock in the morning. The Scotland game is on here. And for us, it's just gone 6 o'clock just now, mate. I hope you're well. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, so I've been training in the garden with 2 bricks. You should look into buying and he's all about home training. Okay, thank you. I'll have a little look. I'll keep a note of that. What's this? Grok. I use Grok more, but noted the quality deteriorated. Free version. Dietrich, I tend to find that they all go through these cycles of being like, you know that there's like Claude's on top, then ChatGPT steps in. But Grok was the one I found the least useful, although I was using it to check like stock performance of a couple of companies. And it was helpful from that perspective because it's ultimately trawling through X posts, right? So when you want to know something about a company, it's quite interesting to be able to kind of like GameStop. Oh, don't know if you've seen, right? But GameStop this morning, it came out that they've increased their stake ownership of eBay to 9%. they're heading towards hostile takeover territory. They released their earnings during the week early, ahead of schedule, and they've had the biggest quarterly result in the history of the company. And the share price went down like $2. Can't make it up. But the markets had a bit of a tough week. Obviously, yesterday was a heavy red day, trillions written off of the markets we talked about at the beginning. But GameStop it's came out in the latest filings that they now have exposure to 9% of the company. And they've done it by spending around $100 million on options contracts. So they can exercise those options contracts and realize a 9% stake in the company, which is just... I saw somebody writing that they now have a 70% chance that they're going to take over the business. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? I just want to correct one thing here. On my tip, just going to state, not a financial advisor. Please make all financial decisions based on your own research. But fascinating situation. Fascinating situation. So I own GameStop. I have options contracts on GameStop, both calls, covered calls, and cash secure puts open right now on GameStop based on everything that's going on. There was an eBay insider who just a couple of days ago sold more stock. So the management team, they're giving the indication that they know it's over and they're selling their stock now whilst the price is elevated before GameStop's half stock, half cash deal comes to some kind of fruition. And yes, SoFi is like, I mean, it's painful to watch right now. But this is the market, right? It's on a crazy ride. They didn't get included in the S&P 500, which I think the two companies came out yesterday. They weren't included again, although they were eligible. I think it's probably going to be more like Q3, Q4, maybe early next year before they get that inclusion. But they've done some great things in the last couple of weeks and months. You know, they launched their own crypto, right, which runs on it runs on a pairing between Solana and Ethereum. They've launched a new AI dashboard, a bit like what I was just talking about with Interactive Broker, where you can use AI to manage all of your finance directly on the SoFi platform. So they're making all the right noises. They're heading in the right direction. The market's just not loving them. And again, their biggest competitors, right, are like Bank of America, JP Morgan. These are all companies that own a lot of stock of SoFi and are probably shorting it to keep the price down, right? SoFi at this point two things could happen that would make it, I mean, it could be wild, right? They could get bought over. They could easily get bought over by a major player that just comes in and says, we'll offer you $20, right? And that would be wild. That would be bad for investors, for us, because it's got so much potential. But when it's down at $15 odd, it could easily be an acquisition target. But what I would like to see the company do is do a stock buyback, which is what GameStop announced, right? So GameStop are setting up this perfect trap right now. And the trap is that as part of their results announcement that they put out this week, the management team has agreed a $2 billion stock buyback at $21. Now, GameStop also has a warrant issue at $32. I own about, I don't know, a few thousand warrants, I think, which means I can buy GameStop at $32, but GameStop would need to be above that to make sense. But GameStop is now going to do a buyback of $2 billion, up to $2 billion worth of stock at $21. So the market is trapped with GameStop because they really don't want it to get down to 21, because if GameStop start acquiring their own stock and taking thousands of shares off the market, that could cause a squeeze. And if the market doesn't allow GameStop to run, right, that's what they're going to do. But if they allow it to run, then it's going to trigger the purchase of warrants by everybody that owns it, which brings in another $2 billion in cash for GameStop. whilst they're also already sitting on 9 billion of cash. And now with over 100 million invested into options, a 9% stake in eBay, this all sounds quite fascinating. All quite fascinating. Yeah, and Noto has bought like $2 million worth. I'd like to see him buy again now, because I think his average price is like, I think he said it was like, maybe in an interview, it was like $17, or that he was actively buying at $17. He was looking into Leaps, which is like long exposure. I don't know, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like options. It's like long dated options. And I must admit, I was having a little look at them myself, and I was using Claude to help me work out whether it was financially worth it or not, based on my current position. But that would be like 2028, agreeing that the price would be like $20, because it's at 15 now. And you're thinking, well, 2028, is SoFi still going to be at $15, $20? If it's significantly higher, there could be money to make out of that. But Anthony Noto was on an interview and he talked, because he's put so much of his cash into buying shares that he's now looking at an alternative way. And you don't need a lot of cash to write Leaps. It's a much cheaper way to enter the market. And so that got me interested. I was like, oh, well, the CEO's talking about buying Leaps of his own stock. Then that's something I might have a look at. Now, this part here, there was a little bit of that. It was in his filings that he'd bought SoFi and Robinhood, but then I'd also heard that he'd sold it. So I'm not really up to speed on all of that, but it could just be, I know that Trump put out a list of all the stocks that he bought, and SoFi was in it, but it's months old, and I don't know if he sold it again. I would hope not. And yeah, GameStop has some smart leadership. It's amazing how many people think that Ryan Cohen is some kind of like industry plant, or that he's on the side of the shorters like Citadel or BlackRock or these companies, that he's on the side of all of them, or that he's got nothing to him. You know, and there's this whole division right now between the people that wanted MOAS, right, the mother of all short squeezes, that want MOAS, or that want a CEO that's going to run the business well and take over eBay. Now, I sit on that camp. Just deliver the business. And the latest results, he has smashed it. Phenomenal results. And now 9% exposure to eBay. That is some smart management, if you ask me. Let's see what else we got. I nearly bought GameStop this week. Very tempted to dip my toes in. I'll tell you what I've done this week, right? I have two things running. I've got a cash secured, I've got a, yes, I have a cash secured put on GameStop at $25 that paid out $5.60 in premium, which runs out in July. And I've got 10 of those contracts, 10,000 shares. 1,000 shares, 10,000 shares, 100 times 10,000 shares. $25 strike price, which means my break even is about 1950, something like that, off the top of my head. But I've also got stock of GameStop. And when it ran up a little bit this week, I wrote covered calls at $32 and picked up about $400 in premium, which closes in September for 4 contracts. So picked up a little bit of premium, but I've also got this. I've got a little bit, I can't remember the exact name of that play, but I've got exposure at both sides. So as long as GameStop doesn't plunge to like 18 or 15 or something, then I've got an opportunity to kind of earn at both sides of this. I've got going on right now. Thank you, Diedrich, for confirming. Leaps, long-term equity, anticipation securities. Yeah, Leaps, long exposure, longer than a year. Yeah, so I was looking at 2028 contracts as a little bit of an option. Buy GameStop at $20 and make sure you have an entry and an exit price. Yep. Sounds like solid advice on all of that front. Do you think now is a good time to buy crypto? Do you know, yeah, I was actually sitting this morning and I was looking at XRP, and I was just, not a lot, but maybe just a couple of £100 worth of XRP, because it's kind of half, it's like half of where it was months ago. And I own Ethereum. I don't own Bitcoin. I've never been really into Bitcoin, but Ethereum I own. And I look at things like SoFi launching their crypto on Solana and Ethereum, and I look at many of the banks that are talking about having some kind of their own stable coin and using the Ethereum network. I see a lot of utilization in Ethereum that I don't really see in Bitcoin, but I'm no expert in any of this. So I own Ethereum, I own a little bit of XRP, and this morning I was sitting thinking I might buy a little bit more of XRP, but I'm also kind of like, Monday, the market will probably rocket, right? And all of this, the Friday close will be gone, but who knows? Here's the thing about that comment, right? What's the phrase? When there's blood on the streets, that's when you buy. Is that the terminology? I'm not very good at all these quotes, but when there's blood on the streets, that's when you, so when there's a deep red market, that's when you have to have the courage of your conviction to buy this stuff. It's easy when it's all, heading up in the right direction. Oh yeah, I'll get on board with it. But when it's down deep in the red, and I always think of SoFi in that front, and SoFi went from being a IPOE to a SPAC to become SoFi. It launched and it went to $22. I was buying some at $22. I was buying it when it was IPOE at like $15. And it went to $22 and I was like, this thing's going to rocket. And then it went to $4 and I kept buying it at $4. And I was telling friends, it's worth having this thing. And they were like, I'm not buying that at $4. I bought it at $4. I bought it at $5. I bought it at $7. I bought it at $9. And then it's been up as high as 32. And now it's back to 15. But I feel like 15 right now is a real holding point for this stock. I'm not an expert. Don't see it going any lower. But see, when I was buying that at 4, that's when you had to have the courage of your conviction, because it was getting slammed at that point in the press. It was just junk and that it was never going to do anything. And look where it's at now. But has it been like, it's been like 17 quarters of just constantly nailing the numbers? Anyway, just a guy on the web chatting about all this nonsense. Do you watch Squawk Box? I don't know if I know what that is. Is that a YouTube channel or a TV program? Or I know the name rings a bell, but I can't think why. I only put a little bit into crypto. Everything in life is a gamble. I mean, this is true, right? This is like, I built that dashboard this week and put all my numbers into it, connected it to Interactive Broker, put my pension, put Yvonne's pension into it, gave me an idea, right? And I've had people in the comments that have said, won't be that if the market crashes? And I'm like, yeah, if the market crashes, we are all effed. Your pensions are effed. The companies are effed. The globe is effed. Nobody will be worried about my couple of investments. I'll be worried about them, but you won't be. But you'll be worried about your own pensions and everything else. Nothing will be untouched if the market crashes. What do? Hoard it as gold. You go buy gold, right? Have you seen all these videos of people that buy gold and then they go get it checked and it's like, it's gold plated and it's shit inside it? China, that happens all the time. That's what makes me nervous about physical assets like that. And then what do? Lug it around with you? And crypto's the same, and buying, AI stocks are the same. Hyperliquid is generating 4 or 5 million revenue per day. The only crypto project is actually generating significantly profit. Okay. I think the speculators are moving to AI. They'll be back eventually, quite possibly. I mean, this is what everybody speculates, right? Is this the big bubble? Is Claude about to go? Is Claude announced an IPO, or still speculating on it? Or Anthropic, as I should call it. The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets, even if the blood is your own. The Rothschilds, right? Yeah, that says it all. A market crash equals buying opportunity, just like 2022. Yep, you just got to have the cash to do it, and two, the courage of your convictions to make it happen. Right, folks, that's been nearly an hour and a half. I'd only really planned to pop on and have me waving away bloody God knows what. And the dogs came to see me to be like, John, it's time to go for a walk, mate. It's 6:30. And it nearly is 6:30. So thank you so much, everybody that's joined and had a little chat with me. Oh, I just want to close this off. Hernia op, 1,600 quid. Imagine what that would be if you went private in the UK. 2 nights. There you go. 1,600 quid to get a hernia op. Thank you for sharing that, Stephen, mate. That's great. I appreciate it. Right, so I shall love you and leave you on this Saturday evening here. We're going to go and have a walk down to the town, take the dogs for a walk, debate whether I crack and have that cider or if I just have another can of coffee or something like that along the main street. Have a great rest of your evening, days, night times, all the territories that are here, New Zealand and Australia, Vietnam, the UK, and all the other territories that are here if I've missed any, Holland, the Netherlands. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.